You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with your hosts, Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Hey there, how are ya? Mike Sempervive here with you. Welcome to the show, Wrestling Observer Live. We are here with you every single day, live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, noon Pacific, 7 GMT. Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, 10 GMT. For those of you listening internationally, maybe through American Forces Radio, tune in. Many ways to check us out. Special hello for those of you listening in today on Sirius XM Fight Nation 156 and Dan Patrick Radio 211. Love you guys. Don't love my co-host. I wasn't even supposed to be here today. I was going to take a day. Maybe hang out with my kid, get something done around the house, just kind of decompress, maybe catch back up on the All Japan Champions Carnival, something like that, but no. For those of you who've been living under a rock, our fearless leader, Brian Alvarez, ventured down to Union City, California on Saturday night, wrestled for All Pro Wrestling, faced off against the Jungle Boy, son of Luke Perry, the All Pro Wrestling Junior Heavyweight Champion. Brian bragged about taking that belt and bringing it home, putting it alongside his Texarkana television title. Brian Alvarez is the coward of Alameda County now. Brian Alvarez, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, submitted, and lost to the Jungle Boy last night. Yeah, the embarrassment on the bay. Do you have thoughts on that? Brian had some thoughts on that, and I recorded them from Wrestling Observer Radio last night, and I'm going to play them for all of you. And if you want to talk a little about that or anything else that's taking place in the world of professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, there's an Impact pay-per-view tonight. The Crockett Cup returned. ROH and the NWA last night. Did you get a chance to check that out? Shingo and Sho doing awesome things in New Japan. A whole bunch of stuff if you want to get into it. 1-800-878-PLAY. Get this thing started. We get back from break. Let's do it. All right, back on the show. Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. I'm in a good mood. I am, even though I talked about not wanting to planning on not being here in the opening. But Brian, afraid to show up to work today. A little embarrassed. I don't know if you had a chance to hear Wrestling Observer Radio last night and how he began that show, the stuttering. He didn't know the date. He sounded like he was all sorts of shaken up. And there's a good reason for that, because this is incredibly amusing to me. Brian Alvarez traveled to All Pro Wrestling last night and was submitted by the Jungle Boy. He had Jungle Boy locked in what looked to be a rear naked choke, and this is video you can see over at Garrett Gonzalez. Up on his Twitter page. He recorded this from All Pro Wrestling last night. Seemed to have Jungle Boy in a choke, which he said he was going to do. He was going to ground this kid. He wasn't going to let him fly around. Same tact he takes with Marco Stunt and everybody else, chop him down with the axe handle that is the Chop and Roll Express right hand of Brian Alvarez. But Jungle Boy powered up. And, look, these are not massive guys. We poke fun at Brian, and, this was called the Dragonfly, the Dragonweight Championship here. And yeah, in a way, it looked kind of like two kids. And there's Jungle Boy, and he smashes Brian. He stands up and smashes Brian back into the turnbuckle. So Brian kind of slumps over a little bit. So now Jungle Boy looks like he's got, like, a little 4-foot 8-inch growth coming off the side of his back. And he throws Brian's left arm over. He hooks behind it. He hooks Brian's other arm, and now he's got him in a full Nelson as Brian is hanging off the side of him. And Mr. BJJ didn't have an escape for that one. And that was an incredibly painful, insulting experience to Brian, where he is now kind of returned into it and hidden in a cave. And that wasn't even possibly the most embarrassing thing, as you're going to hear now during this clip. Brian was also punched out by a child in the audience, which in some ways is amazing because the child may have been a little bit bigger, so it could be considered bullying. But here's Brian last night with Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio.
5 o'clock this morning.
This has been a long day. I wasn't up too much later than that, and it's really late because I was covering Bellator and you were wrestling.
That's right.
Not too far from here.
No, I was in
Union City.
Union City. Is it Union City?
That's where I was told you were
Union
going.
City. Yeah, I was in Union City. Match with the Jungle Boy. Unfortunately, I was defeated. I did not tap.
I saw the finish. Yeah, but you waved your arm. So that's
right, but this is not a lucha match.
That's a Mexican submission.
This was not a lucha match, so I did not tap.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't review my own match, but everybody...
I heard it was good.
Thought it was great, so...
Oh, great.
I was happy with that.
Okay. I mean, I heard it was good, but yeah, that's cool.
I did have a unique... The one thing I got to talk about in the match...
You slowed him down.
It was slowed down. So it was a show at a high school, and so there's like a bunch of kids there. Mm-hmm. Like these kids were younger than high school kids, so they're probably like brothers and sisters of the high school. But they're all sitting in this one section, and these kids are super into the match.
Cool.
They love the Jungle Boy.
Well, everyone does.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a natural charisma.
So we're brawling out there by these kids, and I chop him, and he falls into the kids' laps, and I chopped him as he's on these kids' laps. So then he gets up, and he does a reversal. He puts me on the kids' laps. He chops me while I'm on these kids' laps.
Oh, I know the story. Go ahead.
So then he picks me up, and he grabs my arms behind my back.
Did he put you in full Nelson?
Nope. He just holds my arms behind my back, and this kid stands up and punched me full force right in the stomach.
I heard this.
And you know what? Like normally when a kid hits you, like you shouldn't sell it, but this kid hit me so hard that I had to sell a little bit. But yeah, this kid attacked me in the middle of this match to save the Jungle Boy. So yeah, that was the highlight of the match. But
there you go. That's cool.
So typical of somebody in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they just can't handle being hit. That was always... There's a lot going on there in that clip, wasn't there? Brian, talk about how great his match was. I heard it was good. Yeah, I heard it was good. Oh, it was great? All right, cool. That makes you feel better about your tap-out loss. Oh, wait, you didn't tap out? Nope, it was a Mexican submission, so now we know what Brian's excuse is now going to be for history, which he is like to and want to change. Marco Stunt's broken leg, attributed now to the boss man. Now he's saying he's not going to tap out, so... There you go. There's the outline for your week of what Brian... If he decides to return to the show tomorrow, we'll have to find out. If not, I'll be relying a lot on you. And if you want to join me today, you can. 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Go right to the phones. Ryan in Cumberland, Maryland, how are you?
Good. My take on this Brian Alvarez match is he has no excuse for blaming this little kid for interfering, because I told Brian this happens a fair amount in independent shows. These little kids run havoc on the indie circuit. Like I told him about the Davey Richards match with Chris LaRusso, how little kids beat up Chris LaRusso and Davey Richards picked up the victory. So I think he's out of luck on this one. But is this the first time that Brian submitted in a match? Has Buddy Wayne been able to pick up the victory by submission on Brian, or just like wrestling history right here? And my second question is, does Red Shoes ever disqualify people? Because Kevin Kelly was talking about Red Shoes maybe disqualifying Zack Sabre Jr. Last Friday, and I just sort of thought that was like a joke he was making during the show.
Ryan, well, thank you very much for the call. Red Shoes may have not, it may be since like 2009. I'm trying to think of when did Finn Balor, Prince Devitt, and the Bullet Club come to prominence? 2010. I'm terrible with dates that way, but whenever that happened, that's when things started kind of going, right out the window. And one of the safer things that you could always count on in Japanese professional wrestling, authority and rules. And even though things sometimes would get wild, obviously there's the days of Abdul the Butcher and the Sheik and things like that. I won't pretend that, this never took place or anything like that. Of course, it's pro wrestling, for heaven's sakes. But they were always a little bit tighter on it. But New Japan went completely to the opposite way, to the point where a lot of people thought damage was going to be done. And in some ways, it has been done to the product. They've completely basically neutered the referees, including Red Shoes. So, yeah, I mean, I think basically it's just become kind of a joke and a talking point, even though they will break out the DQ every once in a while. But they should probably kind of, again, scale back and do that a lot more. And they seem to have done it a little bit more, where it really gets out of hand, or matches with the Tongans and things like that. And even that I can handle if it's not up and down the card, but when you have so much interference, what the Bullet Club has been known for over time, it makes it a little bit rough. Not as rough as a Mexican submission to Jungle Boy, which I don't know if this happened at any point in Brian's career. I'd have to imagine at some point down the line, at some point in either British Columbia or Washington or Oregon or wherever else Brian would wrestle in the past, that at some point he was probably submitted. Now, I don't know with what, with an abdominal stretch, a Boston Crab, a figure four leg lock. I have no idea whatsoever. But this, of modern times, after the resurrection of Brian Alvarez's wrestling career, this is certainly the most notable L, and certainly the only submission that I can think of, because remember, he does fancy himself as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist, a black belt, a teacher of kids. I might be asking for my money back if I'm a parent right now. Either that, or there's going to be a lot of kids that are now filled with a lot of confidence, because not only do they know that they could tap Brian out, they could also punch him and do some damage to him. So this could cause all sorts of problems up at that school. I don't know. 1-800-878-PLAY. One of the things that was also revealed last night on Wrestling Observer Radio, and I don't know, this could be out there somewhere else too, but I didn't hear it anywhere else. I heard it on the show with Dave and Brian, is Luke Harper's not going to be released from his contract. That is not a surprise whatsoever. Why would WWE release him and give him up to AEW or Chikara or Ring of Honor or Evolve or wherever? It doesn't matter. Why would they do that? They wouldn't. But what was interesting is what they had planned, which was a feud with Sami Zayn, which is now out the window. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live. Matt Riddle wouldn't tap out. Mike Sempervive here with you. Wrestling Observer Live. Also wouldn't flap his arms like a wounded bird. Mexican submission. Half a Mexican submission. And a whole embarrassment for Brian Alvarez. 1-800-878-PLAY if you want to join me. We're always available on Twitter as well. At Sempervive, at Brian Alvarez, at WONF4W for everything you need in professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. And at Sports Byline USA for everything you need in sports talk. And we're always here with you every single day, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Sundays at 6 p.m. We go back to the phone lines right now. Tim in Miami. Tim, how are you?
Hey, what's up, Mike? Appreciate you taking one for the team so we can have a live show here on a Sunday.
Can you believe the embarrassment? Did you hear that show with Brian last night? Did you hear how he started that thing all stumbling and drunken and broken?
Yeah, I listened to it in the morning on my run, and I had to stop my run because I was laughing so hard when Dave kind of threw water on his match. But let's not make fun of my friend Brian. You know, I called because, you know, the other thing that they've been talking about, and it's been bandied about on the board somewhat, is people like blaming the women for the downturn in the ratings. And I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments on that. First of all, I take Dave at his word when he says that Ronda and Becky were doing some of the best quarter hours, you know, and therefore, you know, they deserve that main event spot. The problem that I have with the women is now that they're basically using them to fill out, you know, 30 to 40%, sometimes even more of these TV shows, is when you peel back the top layer and you start getting to some of those underneath women with the premium that they still put on looks, we get a lot of really sloppy, really not great women's matches week in and week out, and that causes me to change the channel. And the second thing I would say, in terms of just the character development, like when you listen to Rock and Stone Cold talk about what made them successful, they say they were being themselves just with aspects of their personalities, the volume turned way up. And the characteristics that they turned the volume up on were those that made them connect with the audience, made them a more effective performer, a better heel, a better babyface. When you look at a lot of these women, it's almost like a male writer ascribed to each of them some really negative characteristics and said, we're turning the volume up on that. You're going to be overly bitchy. You're going to be overly awkward. You're going to be overly conceited. You're going to be overly jealous. You're going to be overly naive. I can imagine why women don't want to see this.
Well, that's the problem, though, too, of any character that they have there that is manufactured that's not true. When you turn that fake character up to 12 and it's glowing and it's even more annoying and it's even more fake and it's even more, there's even more of a disconnect because you're trying to push it so hard, it stands out even more. And that's, fair across the board. It's more noticeable for the women, and it's popping up more for the women right now because it's not special and new and different anymore. And now they're going to suffer the same fate, and they've been suffering the same fate as the men have and as they have in the past, where that sloppiness or sometimes the sameness of the matches where, we know Charlotte's going to do her backflip come hell or high water, but, Sasha's going to do the double knees come hell or, that sort of thing where, sometimes the signature spots are good, but sometimes there was a sameness to those matches, and that has grown a little bit tiring with the formula. Those things stand out more because things aren't special. And, of course, Ronda and Becky were doing good numbers. And people that there seemed to be, and I know you were on Sasha about this, but there were people that were really hammering Sasha as opposed to hammering Luke Harper. And that was a real sign, too, that in some ways the bloom is off the rose because I think it was a little bit more than it probably they should have if you were trying to balance it out as far as people seem to be way too upset in their feelings about Sasha being inside her feelings, as opposed to Luke Harper or anybody else that's been asking for their release. But with that said, when it comes to the matches, as you're saying, when you don't have anything special, when you don't let these people be themselves, Lacey Evans is a great example of that. Lacey Evans can still be a heel, and we could know more about her background and have the ability to connect more with her as opposed to just this woman who strolls down with a hat, and that's how she's got her title match now because nobody else is classy. It's like they just do nothing to help their cause.
Well, Mike, Luke Harper also didn't no-show Wendy Williams the day after he asked for his release.
Now, be fair, wouldn't you no-show Wendy Williams? Wendy Williams no-showed Wendy Williams.
I can't stand Wendy Williams. But speaking about things not being special, the last thing I want to complain about here, I think Ricochet is one of the most talented people to set foot in a WWE ring ever. Why in God's name is he losing to Bobby Roode on TV? It's like these guys walk in from NXT. They are already over as superstars. All Vince has to do is don't beat them every week on TV. Vince is like the kid that we all grew up with that we didn't want playing with our toys because every time they touch something, they break it. That's what he does to these NXT people that walk through the door as superstars. It's disgusting.
Tim, I want to thank you so much for calling in. Yeah, NXT is the new. It's like when Wade Barrett would always be the one that would stick out to me. It's like he would go out with an injury. He would come back, and it's like people were happy to see him. They liked him. It's like, okay, we can do this again, and hopefully nothing gets screwed up. And then they'd screw it up. And it's like the guy was more over being hurt. Seth Rollins, that was kind of a joke about, look how he comes back, how big everything is, and then he gets completely, not as cooled off, I think, as some people said he was. I think there's a lot of people that don't realize the generation, if anybody's reaching a younger generation and creating fans in WWE, Seth Rollins, I believe, honestly, that he can get a good deal of credit for that or be one of the guys that gets credit for that. And I think there's a lot of older fans that maybe don't give him that kind of credit, but Brian was really on about the Andrade Finn Balor match, and I get why he was, and I understand that because he's right. Andrade just lost the setup the title match. But it was even, and you have to sometimes with WWE, because you're going to drive yourself nuts, and I refuse to let them do that to me. You just have to shake it off, and it is what it is. That's how they build to their title matches, oftentimes. So I'm fine with that. But he didn't concentrate on what I thought was worse, which was that Ricochet lost to Bobby Roode. And I can understand Bobby Roode. He's got, like, your dad's mustache, and they're going to do whatever it is. If they're going to do a ravishing Robert Roode character, whatever their plan is with Bobby Roode, cool. He didn't have to beat Ricochet. There was no point to that. Even if Ricochet is going to get the best of Bobby Roode in the end, this is not, you need stars. You need people with momentum. Becky Lynch got over because she beat everybody with her move. Like, some of those old pro wrestling things still work. Just try to build behind someone. And I know somebody will, well, this is what they're doing with Lacey Evans. No, that's not what they're doing with Lacey Evans. They're just hot-shotting her in there and hoping Becky Lynch can carry her to a good match. And Becky and Charlotte and having two title matches on the same show has got people all shook up, big Becky fans. I don't know. You can talk about that if you want. 1-800-878-PLAY. Maybe he wants to talk about this. Jim in Virginia, what's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing today, Mike?
Doing all right, my man. What's happening?
I got a question for you. Tony Storm has a contract with NXT UK. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. She's going to do a short tour next May, or this coming May, for Stardom. Is that not a conflict? Or I've always thought if you go work for WWE or NXT, you weren't allowed to do other shows.
No, well, in fact, look, Stardom is kind of just open territory right now. There was a show. Well, there was that, and this has surfaced on RooTube and other places as well. The Sendai show from April 13th. There was a match where Jordan Grace, who wrestles for Impact, teamed up with this girl Sari and faced Chihiro Hashimoto and Killer Kelly. And Killer Kelly is also signed to NXT UK. So you had all that going on. Plus Piper Niven, Viper, who is wrestling for Stardom again and is a member of, I can't remember which group she got drafted to in the big Stardom shakeup draft. I think it was Queen's Quest. She's still with them. So she's still going over there, and she just started up not long ago with NXT UK, in fact, defeating Killer Kelly a couple weeks ago on the TV that was taped, I think, in February. So Stardom is just kind of an open territory right now, and it should cause a little bit of heartburn and agita for anybody that is left that is a Women of Honors fan, because when you start seeing WWE sink their tentacles into Stardom, when you start hearing about New Japan looking at Stardom shows and trying to plan on how they want to incorporate that, if they want to incorporate women's wrestling into their shows, you know, you're going to have other people get shut out real quick. And Ring of Honor did a poor job. They're having the big cattle call. They're having a group of people. I believe it's like 50 spots available for women to come in to their tryout that they're going to have. It's desperately needed, but it's like, you know, that's great. But the reality is there are a lot of talented women that are out there on that scene that you just have to be able to go aggressively out there and try to find and work towards. I don't know. But, Jim, I want to thank you very much for the call. Here's the music right there. But there was an example of it last night with Allison Kay, who was with Impact, that, you know, Women of Honor could have made a play for it and possibly could make a play for it. There's a lot of them that Ring of Honor could do if they wanted. And we can get into that as well as many other things, including that Impact pay-per-view, which takes place tonight. We'll be back. Back on the show, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive here with you. I'm not going to beat this into the ground, but again, with that Women of Honor thing, Ian Riccaboni last night, they got the Santana Garrett match on the NWA Crockett Cup show last night. Jazz vacated the NWA World Women's Championship, so her opponent for the match, Allison Kay, a.k.a. Sienna, wrestled Santana Garrett, who was put into the match. Match was not spectacular at all or anything like that. It was there, and Allison Kay won the title, and that's cool. But it's just an example of just at least one of those women in Santiago Garrett that probably could have been used in Women of Honor at some point. They had access to all of the women from Stardom. I mean, Mayu Iwatani was their champion. There's women who are out there, whether it be, they use Holodead and Thunder Rosa occasionally. The Sea Stars have wrestled for Future of Honor. Carissa Rivera, who has done some enhancement work for NXT, and recently with WWE, she was one of the Brooklyn Bells, but, a second-generation wrestler. Great look. Does got a native gimmick with the full headdress. I mean, she looks very good. She needs experience, but she's been based out of the East, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if it's out of the Northeast. Certainly wrestles there. Haven't thought about bringing her in. They've taken an interesting tact, and I don't understand what they've done when it comes to the women, other than they feel as though they have to have a division with a title, so that's what they do. If you don't want to do that, don't have one of those. But we'll have to see. I bag on it, but they are doing the big open tryout for all of the women. It's just, are you going to be aggressive about it now? Are you really going to try to do something here and use the new beautiful people, what are they called, allure, to try to do something here? I don't know. Hopefully they do. There's no Gail Kim or Tessa Blanchard there, but they're in Impact. And Impact's got a pay-per-view available through traditional means and on Fight TV tonight. You would probably know that if you listen to Figure 4 Dailies on Fridays, where Lance Storm has been talking about the situation not only with Brian this week, but on his own in the last couple of weeks, and Don Callis. Special referee is named by Scott D'Amore, who's being threatened by Brian Cage. So, of course, he throws Lance Storm under the bus. Lance is now the special ref, will not wear Shawn Michaels' banana smuggling shorts. I'm not sure if he's going to be wearing traditional referee gear. Something tells me I'd love to see Lance back in WWF-style referee gear, the old black pants, short-sleeve blue shirt with a bow tie. Probably won't, though. He'll probably do the, I'm 50 and still in shape with the guns, and have on the ultra-tight cut-off spandex ref shirt. Johnny Impact and Brian Cage Impact title. That's the main event. Lucha Brothers and LAX and Full Metal Mayhem. If you didn't get enough of PCO killing himself last night, these four are going to do it in a completely different way. Gail Kim, Tessa Blanchard, and what is being billed as Gail Kim's last match. We will see about that. Rich Swann and Sami Callihan. And the Rascals against Ethan Page, Josh Alexander, and Moose. Moose still there. Kind of forget about him every once in a while, but Ethan Page, Josh Alexander, very good together. So the Impact has been fun. I haven't had a chance to see a whole lot of it, but universally the people who have seen it enjoy it. It's just a matter of the eyeballs on it. It's kind of like MLW with Filthy Tom. It's just, it becomes a victim of the vision game. How much can you see? How much can you take in? It's not easy. I'm not sure how many people saw the NWA show last night. I got a huge kick out of that show. Of course, I'm old. I was in the Crockett era. I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling. So, all of that's right up my alley. So I greatly enjoyed the show last night. Ring of Honor did a lot of the production. Dave Lagana, obviously, whatever touches Billy Corrigan and Lightning One, which is their side of the production group. The videos that are done, which Dave talked a little bit about those last week on the show. Leading into the Crockett Cup, they do an excellent job. And Nick Aldis is an excellent NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And I would dare say, you can't really compare him to Tanahashi and Okada and Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. It's just, the level is so much different, it's not fair. But when Kenny Omega, you can put in that category too, now that he's, with AEW as well as loosely with New Japan, in theory, has got the ability to go back to New Japan, certainly to DDT. But when you look at, that next level, where Matt Taven's at, this incarnation of Jay Lethal, Cody, who else has been a champion recently in these places low-key for MLW. When you put those guys together, Eli Drake in Impact, like, I'll spot you Johnny Impact, and I'll probably spot you Austin Aries. Of course, I will spot you Filthy Tom Lawler. But, like, of that next group, like, Nick Aldis, I think, has been head and shoulders above those guys. And it's a lot smaller of a sample size. A lot of it is the aesthetics of the act with Camille. With Camilla Kane, I believe her name is, Braun Strowman's one time, if not current girlfriend, I don't know. You know, she, just with her size and her look and not doing anything, provides a baby doll Tully type of dynamic. And Aldis can be slimy like Tully, but he carries himself more in a Flair-esque sort of way. You know, with the suit and the presentation and all that stuff is aces. It really, really is. And I think that's great. And the work in the ring, he's not Ric Flair. He's not Tanahashi. But I think at the level he's at, where they're at right now, and the matches that he has with people like Cody and with people like Marty Scurll, I think he does an excellent job and delivers. And they certainly did last night, both he and Marty Scurll, and they broke the blade out last night again. Ricky Morton against the Rock and Roll Express against the Briscoes. The swerve that they did, or at least the feeling I got, it very much looked as if their wild card team, the NWA team of Royce Isaacs and the former Bram Thomas Latimer, it looked like they were going to slide in and win this tournament. That didn't happen. As PCO and Brody King, they did everything to make you believe that PCO and Brody King were going to lose and the NWA team was going to win out, but that's not the case. And the old throwback, the throwback to the original NWA World Tag Team title belts, the ones that Jim Cornette loves so much, the ones that were brought back and given to the Rock and Roll Express after they defeated the Andersons in the cage, the anniversary, the silver editions of those belts that they made, they brought those belts back. Something I think is cool that the NWA is doing, kind of a nod to the past. A lot of people thought the national title, now held by Colt Cabana defeating Willie Mack last night, it was really wacky looking. It's a takeoff of the old United States Championship that was held in Michigan and also in Mid-Atlantic, that same style. The big red leather strap, the one that the Sheik would use, Bobo Brazil, Blackjack Mulligan, Johnny Valentine, Ric Flair. That belt brought it back. And even if you don't like them bringing those belts back, what they're doing is giving the opportunity to move into belts that some people do like. Some people don't like those world title belts. They like the later 80s edition, which were very cool-looking belts, the tag team title belts from the NWA that Crockett used. Well, guess what? They'll probably go to that next. What else was on that show last night? There were those matches. The wild card, the matches themselves were pretty good. How they got the Briscoes out of there was interesting in that they were facing off against PCO and Brody King, and they initiated chairs, and they ended up getting disqualified. And I think the Briscoes were a favorite for a lot of people, and that was a questionable move when it happened at the time, especially because of how it played out and everything. It was a little bit wonky. It has led to the Briscoes cutting more promos, though, which are available on all of ROH's social media. Hide the kids for these, because it is very Western Sussex County, Delaware. It is very opinionated Jay Briscoe, using all of his vocabulary to talk about what he thought of the NWA and what he thinks about the Guerrillas of Destiny, who they will be facing off with very, very soon for the tag team titles at the War of the Worlds shows. That's if GOD makes it there with the belts, because we've got a busy schedule coming up early this morning, Eastern time, evening time in Japan, a bunch of shows, including a New Japan show headlined by Jay White and Hiroki Goto, and Jay White's first big singles match since coming back from his loss of the IWGP Junior or Heavyweight Championship at Madison Square Garden. We are going to get GOD against Yano and Makabe, a return back to the most violent players of past. And Yano stole the titles, as everybody remembers, at Madison Square Garden, or maybe you don't remember that because you were concentrating on Enzo and Big Cass being used in an angle. By the way, they're gone already because, I mean, why would you use them? I still have a feeling, the way that Enzo apparently cut a promo this week, that we could still probably end up with Enzo and Cass and the Briscoes at a show somewhere. I don't think I want to see it, but, whatever. But G.O.D., I think will hold on to the belts, but there's a chance that Yano and Makabe could win them. A very small chance. Also on that show, Bad Luck Fale and Mikey Nichols for the pride of Australia and New Zealand. And Juice Robinson and Chase Owens for the U.S. title. Which is probably going to be a pretty good match. I like Chase Owens, so there's that. There's the finish of the Champions Carnival, which I desperately need to catch back up on. I didn't even do an Adam and Mike Big Audio Nightmare yesterday with Adam Summers. I just would have insulted him. I am so far behind. I'm starting to catch back up. Caught the Sendai show. I've seen one-off matches here and there. I caught let me tell you, the Shingo Bushi Show-Yo match. If you get a chance to watch that from today, do so. Excellent. Show's a star. Going to be a star, obviously. Show and Shingo together. Alan Farrell on Twitter this morning, some people scoffed when I said Shingo was an all-timer. I always kind of scoffed a little bit at that, too. I know what he's talking about, though. But the more I thought about it, if you think that Shingo is one of the best of this generation, then he's one of the best of all generations when you shake it out. He is excellent. And he's only going to help that division. That is going to be low-key. A lot of people are going to look at other moves that happened in wrestling over the last couple of years, and there's been a lot of them. Low-key, that's going to be almost as important in New Japan as maybe any others. Just his presence there and working with those young, smaller guys is going to be unbelievable. But the Champions Carnival is going on. We've got the finals coming up. Those shows have been loaded with great matches. Many of them wrapped around Miyahara and Okabayashi, Nomura, Ishikawa. Those are the same names you see keep coming up over and over again with these 4+ star matches, and in some cases 5. Okabayashi is going to be the guy that, he's never going to be a huge name, especially here. But he's going to be a name that people are going to look back on, for 20 years from now and go, why wasn't this guy bigger? Unfortunately, because he wasn't taller, really. Back to put a bow on this thing, Wrestling Observer Live.
He just holds my arms behind my back, and this kid stands up and punched me full force right in the stomach. This kid attacked me in the middle of this match to save the Jungle Boy.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Anto at the Anto Show. Will Brian be invited to talk about his bullying experiences at Be a Star Rally? 91 Neff, you'd better be careful. Brian will challenge you for a show in Tampa next year. I'm out of shape. I'm old. I don't care anymore. But I think for at least a minute and a half, I still got enough hands for Brian Alvarez. And if that kid could do some damage to him, I know I could too. Jim on Twitter, I think fans are too critical of the women's wrestlers. Look, when it comes to Women of Honor, it really comes down to the fact that you get fed a steady diet of Kelly Klein, Jenny Rose, Sasha Grey, Mandy Leone. What else you got? And that's the biggest problem. Tennille Dashwood went there, got out of there as fast as they possibly could, and she was going to be in the biggest unit in Lifeblood. The biggest babyface unit they were going to have. She's gone before it even got started. Madison Rayne, they go there. The whole reason they're bringing in Velvet Sky, obviously her relationship with Bully Ray, but they bring Angelina Love in there because this is what Madison Rayne wants. We can do something, get something popping and starting. She goes out and is making fun of ROH on Impact TV, so there's a disconnect there. So I think, again, it's really not on the women as much as it's really on the company and on what their plans were. I know what my plans are. To do the show again tomorrow with Brian Alvarez. We'll see if he shows up. We're always here for you. We'll be back, everybody. I want to thank everybody for calling in. Producer Scott, Brian for not showing up today. I'm Mike Sempervive. We will talk to you again after a while.
I'm shaking.
What the hell? Hey, here we are in damn Concord, North Carolina at the damn Crockett Cup. And I don't know if y'all seen this shit or not, but we got disqualified.
Waste the damn time.
Ain't that some damn shit? How y'all gonna disqualify the damn Briscoes, man? Y'all don't wanna make no damn money? Y'all don't wanna make no damn money, NWA? Y'all don't want us to be the champs? Huh? Do y'all know? Do y'all realize what the hell we could have did for your fucking Crockett Cup? Do y'all realize that shit? Disqualify the Briscoes, man. Hell with that. Y'all wanna play that bullshit? Hell with it. Hell with it. Hey, bring on the Gorillas. We ain't worried about none of this shit. Fuck the damn Crockett Cup. Fuck the NWA. Bring on the Gorillas, baby. That's all we want. Chicago, what's good? Gorillas, what's good, baby? We right here. Ain't gonna be no DQ in that motherfucker. We gonna do this shit, boys. Bring on the fucking Gorillas.